Into this place we come to share, to learn, to speak, to listen, and to grow together in the spirit of harmony and peace. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalists of New Braunfels. My name is Joan Rabb, and I am your service associate today. I want to welcome all of you, whether present in the sanctuary or at home on Zoom. We are a welcoming congregation. This includes every culture, race, creed, sexual orientation, or religious persuasion. No exceptions. We gather together each week to celebrate our spiritual and liberal religious diversity. We are not here because we have figured out life's important questions or a monopoly on truth. We are here to question and explore, to undertake a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Each week, we have a different speaker. On the first Sunday of the month, our minister, Reverend Ade Korba, takes the pulpit. On other Sundays, we have guest speakers, as we do today, and it is one of our own, Stephen Botts. I invite everyone, and especially newcomers, to stay after the service for our newly returned coffee hour, to have a conversation and get to know you better. Unitarian Universalist churches are known for often starting their services by lighting a candle. As Albert Schweitzer once said, we have cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flames within us. Today, we light our chalice in honor of those lighted flames which guide our hearts. We light our chalice in love to those living or dead who so gently ignited them. Now I want to welcome up Janice Fredrickson, who's the president of the Board of Trustees of this church.
Thank you, Joan. Let's take a minute collectively to think about Uvalde. Reverend Ade has sent some words that I think are just beautiful to guide us in thinking about Uvalde. It's been in my heart, and I'm sure it's been in yours, every day since it happened. These are words from Reverend Ade. As we try to process the tragic event in Uvalde, our hearts cry out, please, no, make it not so. It cannot be that any kind of holiness would suffer this. The violent loss of innocent children, so vulnerable and open-hearted to the world. As a religious leader, one of the roles I feel very strongly about is that of comforter. But it's difficult to comfort or be comforted in times such as these, because my heart aches too. We gather in a shared, unbearable grief, riddled with anger as much as sadness. When I think how far we have come as a developed nation, it appears as if things are getting better and summarily worse at the very same time. What now? I do not know the underlying cause of such a heinous act to place blame on any one individual. We can only speak the lonely word, why? We can offer comfort to each other out of our own deep woundedness, to release our anger and bitterness in ways that will counter the violence and find hope in the midst of overwhelming doubt. As people of faith, Unitarian Universalists have a history of being those people of action. And while it sometimes appears futile, we can't give up before the miracle. From my heart to yours, Reverend Ade. And now let's take 30 seconds to close our eyes and send a message through the interdependent web to those grieving people in Uvalde? 30 seconds. Thank you.
As I said when I was lighting the candle, Albert Schweitzer said, "We light our chalice in love toward those living or dead who so gently ignited them." And that stood out for me, living and dead. Now I want to introduce our speaker. Steve has been one of our own, Stephen Botts. He has been one of our own for the past 7 years, and he is most significantly to me, my significant other. He's going to start with an abbreviated reading from one of his favorite religious writers, Karen Armstrong, Thoughts of God.
Karen Armstrong, a well-known Bible scholar, when asked about her personal beliefs about God, stated that to her, God is not a he, a she, or an it, and is not a supreme being, but is inherent in being itself, not in a particular body of doctrine. What religion is supposed to do then is to take us beyond our personal beliefs and everyday consciousness and introduce us to a greater awareness than we have known before. To illustrate this point, she quotes this statement from a 13th century Islamic mystic. "Do not praise your own faith so exclusively that you disbelieve the faith of others. If you do this, you will miss much good. Nay, you fail to recognize the truth of the matter. God, the only presence, cannot be confined to one creed. The Quran says, everywhere you turn is the face of Allah. Everybody praises what he knows. His God, then, is his own creature, and in praising it, he praises himself. Consequently, he condemns the beliefs of others. He would not do this if he were just, and his disbelief is based upon ignorance." My talk today is reflections on religion, and here I'm going to address the three main religions, which is Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. I'm deliberately not getting into Buddhism or Judaism, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because of space and time requirements. Now, as Unitarian Universalists, we're unusual in that most of us come from some other religion which we found irrational, abusive, or just because we felt that we didn't belong there anymore. It's quite likely that we have checked out several different churches or spiritual groups before settling on Unitarian Universalism as the best choice for us. It's tempting, then, to believe that we UUs have the best of all possible religions and our creedless, largely unstructured beliefs, but perhaps that's a little like assuming that the clothes that fit us should fit everyone else. We should remember that many people who are raised at UUs have grown up to adopt some other belief system, either by conviction or for convenience, such as marriage. And sometimes they feel that Unitarian Universalism just doesn't fit their spiritual needs. A case in this is the son of a UU couple from Jones and my former church. In fact, Joan once taught him in Sunday school class. But he converted to Catholicism despite a Unitarian upbringing because of a traumatic offense that brought him face to face with mortality. He saw a friend of his die in a high school shop class when a piece of metal flew off a machine and struck him in the head. He found nothing in Unitarian Universalist teaching that provided him with any comfort in facing the inevitability of death. Catholicism, however, provided the assurance that if he were baptized into that faith, observed the sacraments, and obeyed the teachings of the church, that he would go to heaven after his demise. At the least, I'm sure he will never be disappointed in holding that belief. Also, we tend to evaluate other religions in terms of those we know. For example, I once heard a Baptist lady, when informed that Hindus believe in reincarnation, she sputtered, "Well, that's just ignorance." Now, this dear lady believed very firmly that a certain wandering faith healer who lived over 2,000 years ago was actually an incarnation of the author and creator of the universe. That seemed perfectly logical. To give another example, we might see Islam as a religion that puts Muhammad in the place of Jesus. In fact, Muhammad is more like the Virgin Mary. Consider that in the Christian faith, she served as the channel by which Jesus, the gift of God to human beings, came into the world. In Islam, the Quran is Allah's gift. And it was given word by word in Arabic through the angel Gabriel to the prophet Muhammad. UUs, as well as Christians, might be perplexed as to why Muslims should get so upset on hearing someone burning a Quran. After all, a devout Christian might wince at the sight of someone burning a Bible, but would still understand the physical Bible is only paper and ink, and there's no shortage of copies in the world. Muslims might feel that way about a translation, but the Arabic version is considered to have come straight from Allah and is therefore sacred. Some Muslims even refuse to use toilet paper because of the possibility that some part of a Quran might have ended up in a recycle bin that got reprocessed for bathroom use. Speaking of Islam, we owe a huge debt to Islamic scholars of the late 8th and 9th century, which was considered the golden age of Islam, who copied and preserved the classic works of Greek and Roman civilization that were lost to Europeans after the collapse of the Roman Empire. Furthermore, the simple, elegant system of Arabic numeration we use today was developed by Islamic mathematicians during the same period. If you have trouble computing your income tax, consider how hard it would be if we had to use Roman numerals. Now, we may not have fond memories of struggling with algebra in high school and college, but it was originated by a Persian mathematician in the 9th century and is still considered a necessary prerequisite to the study of higher mathematics in science and engineering. Now, as far as human origins and evolution are concerned, since it's not supported by the Quran, therefore it is considered false, just as in fundamentalist Christianity. In fact, teaching of evolution is forbidden by law in some countries where there is a Muslim majority. Now, let us consider Christianity and the fact that we have had universal or near universal literacy from our earliest days on this continent. In fact, if it hadn't been for the Puritans who settled in New England, we might never have a country at all. Their concern for literacy was based on the belief that Christians should be able to read the Bible for themselves. And this led to the passage of what has been termed the old deluder Satan laws, which required every settlement to hire teachers in order to ensure that young people would be able to read the scriptures and not be led astray by the wiles of the devil. There were primers employed that used simple, easy-to-read language, but the content wasn't anything like the readers we started with. Now, we might have been taught, see Dick run, or see Jane throw the ball to Spot. Instead, Puritan children were treated to such inspiring material as, in Adam's fall, we sinned all, or the idle fool is whipped at school. It wasn't anything like Dr. Seuss, but it rhymed and was easy for beginning readers. In fact, for many years, Sunday schools were not just places where children sang songs and listened to stories, but were weekly centers for children to practice their reading skills. The result of all this concern with education in the late 18th century was that there were enough literate people in the colonies to read and be inspired by the writings of people like Patrick Henry, Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin, who was also a printer, to rebel against the oppressive rule of King George. Besides that, written communications were essential to coordinate the armies of the operations of the Revolutionary War. Now, although Christianity is a missionary religion, primarily concerned with personal salvation, Christians have always been concerned with human welfare. So the fact that both the Old and New Testaments stress the importance of helping the poor and afflicted does not go ignored. And there are Christian charities such as Habitat for Humanity, the Salvation Army, and many others that serve the less fortunate among us in the name of God. Now, today's Christians are mostly kind-hearted, gentle people who ignore biblical injunctions to slay friends or relatives who try to lead them into other religions, nor do they have lazy, disobedient sons stoned to death as prescribed in Deuteronomy. Some denominations have become tolerant of same-sex relationships and even gay marriage. Still, Christianity has an uneasy relationship to science, particularly in the area of biological evolution. Today, about 1/3 of Americans deny that humans or animals have ever changed since creation, with about 64% of evangelical Protestants insisting that the theory of evolution is wholly false. Now this, in Christianity today, there's a wide spectrum of faith ranging from conservative to liberal belief. So it's hard to sum up in a few words precisely what Christian is about, except to say that Christians see the basic spiritual problem in the human condition is sin. And the solution is to accept Jesus Christ as personal Savior and accept his forgiveness. Faith and works both matter, but faith is generally considered more important. Now, Hinduism, by contrast, does not acknowledge sin as such, but sees karma, or attachment to worldly things, as the main problem of life. Humans are doomed to accumulate karmic baggage through a long series of incarnations until they take action to free themselves. Hinduism today is more like Unitarian Universalism than we might expect. That is, it has no creed, no central authority, and no founder. It simply evolved over the millennia and is still changing and evolving. There are many gods in the Hindu pantheon, the top three of which are Brahman, the creator, Shiva, the destroyer, and Vishnu, the preserver. A Hindu may believe in all of the gods, some of them, or none of them. And no Hindu has ever been excommunicated or accused of heresy. In terms of adherents, Hinduism is the third largest religion in the world after Christianity and Islam. It includes some of the best educated and successful people in the United States, especially in the field of artificial intelligence and computer science. Hinduism is not a missionary religion, so it's unlikely that you'll ever have a Hindu Hindu come knocking at your door, passing out tracts with passages from the Bhagavad Gita. Yet, several Hindu beliefs and practices have been adopted into American culture, such as yoga, belief in karma, and sometimes the concept of reincarnation. Hindus, unlike Christians and Muslims, have no problem with science, nor do they have any issues with contraception or abortion, and they have no particular issues with homosexuality. Also, they're able to set aside traditions and practices that no longer work or are harmful to society, such as a centuries-old caste system or the custom of sati, the ancient custom of a widow immolating herself on her husband's funeral pyre. I'm not saying that such practice no longer exists, but they no longer have the power of law. The effect of religion on the world is pretty much a mixed bag. It has been responsible for the bloodshed of the Crusades, which involved the genocidal slaughter of Muslims and Jews in the Middle East, the torture of heretics in the medieval period, years of warfare in Europe over which denomination is privy to the one true way, and of course, the burnings, hangings, and drownings of untold members of purported witches. And there are persecutions of people whose different religious opinions differ from those in power. Of these was one of our Unitarian forebears, Miguel Servetus, who was burned at the stake at the behest of John Calvin for insisting that God was one and not three. Still, we have great works of art and literature, grand cathedrals, as well as numerous organizations that promote social justice, disaster relief, and educational programs running from basic literacy through graduate school, all thanks to people who wanted to make a difference in the world in the name of God. Also, a common religion can expand the circle of care beyond family, locality, and tribe. People are more likely to be accepting, friendly, and helpful with others who share the same affiliation, even when dealing with strangers. In my personal experience, my father worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture and was subject to being transferred to different areas where his special set of skills were needed. Now, we were Southern Baptists, and my mother saw to it that when we entered a new community, our first social contacts were with a Baptist church. She would take on jobs such as teaching Sunday school, working in the church library, or playing hymns on the piano whenever needed. She would also join the Women's Missionary Union and make sure my sister and I attended Sunday school and Baptist training union. Of course, if there were any store owners, doctors, or dentists in the congregation, they would have my family's business. Then we would invite and be invited to dinners, birthday parties, and the like in short order. It didn't take long for us to develop a circle of friends. In this way, I continue to practice by attending a UU church if I'm traveling, to spend some time with people with whom I can share beliefs and experience wherever I happen to be. In conclusion, religion can do a lot of good for people and also inflict a lot of harm. It can draw circles of inclusion and build walls of exclusion. It can give minorities a strength to endure persecution, then turn around and inflict persecution when the balance of power changes. It can declare some books sacred and then burn others. It can build cathedrals and destroy monuments. It can promote education, but also dignify deliberate ignorance by calling it faith. There is only one thing we can say about religion for certain, and that is that it is a human thing. It has ebbed and flowed through human culture since before the beginnings of recorded history, and it's not going away anytime soon. So at this point, back to John.
Now we will be extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Blessed be.